My man.
Yes, sir.
Dude, I'm so pumped for this conversation. I just have so much fun going through like your social media and looking at everything. It's
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
dude,
I've been having a lot of fun with it lately.
the video where the kid hit a almost took you down, hit like a little dump.
Dude.
Dude. And then the crowd reaction when you slammed the kid,
Uh-huh.
unbelievable.
Yeah, man. The kid had me. He really had me. It's like I'm in South Dakota. I'm at they're campers. I'm not taking it too seriously, and the kid's legit though. And I had no idea. I grabbed him for a little. I'm like, oh, this kid's a little better than I thought. And then he hit me in that. Like people don't surprise me like that, whether I'm paying attention or not. Not very often. Not without being actually a guy that could wrestle at least at the college level. And turns out the kid's a three-time state champ from Wyoming, which can be hit or miss.
Mhm.
So with Wyoming being where he's from, the D1 programs aren't looking at him at all until that video kind of popped off. I've had a bunch of coaches call me like, who is that? And what's his deal? He's got a 4.0. His name is Lane Ewing, and he's got some potential D1 situations going on for him. So I'm hoping that he gets to compete, and I'm hoping that he's as good as I felt in those 20-second go. But either way, it was still so cool, and the people reacted really well to it. And it's kind of funny, don't believe everything you see on Instagram. I'm drilling in the second clip. That's not real.
Got it. Dude, I didn't know, man, but I was like, shit, it looked cool. And then the reaction was so good though. But
Yeah, I told him to do that in
oh,
the
you did?
background. Yeah, I said, hey, when I pick him up, you got to go. Ah. And then when the kid almost got me, I had someone filming that in case I did something cool. I put them back to back, and it looks like I tried to slam the same kid, and I think it went viral because it's clearly not the same kid. There's enough people talking crap to me, and enough people just enjoying the show. But I mean, that's what camps are, man. Is to bring joy to the sport of wrestling, and I think everybody had a good time, and everybody's kind of feeling that vibe. So it took off, and I gained like almost 20,000 followers from it.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
my most
Dude,
views ever.
really?
Yeah,
Dude, Mark Branch, what are you doing not letting this kid slip through the cracks out in Wyoming, man? Let's
yeah.
get going. I'm sure, like you said, a lot of coaches calling him now, which is so cool because man, that's that's just such a cool story. If something pans out of that, that would be amazing.
Yeah, it'd be pretty crazy. Yeah, and he's got 4.0. His ACT scores are 27, something like that. Pretty good scores. So I'm like,
dude,
what happened here?
Get to Fargo, something, kid. Get going.
I think what would have happened if he would actually score?
Right. Seriously. It was, man. But just and we'll roll into the interview here. Reece Humphrey, good to have you on the show, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. But yeah, no, I was just watching, obviously a bunch of your matches this morning. The match against Zadok, when I go back and watch that Flow documentary, you say you wanted to retire him.
Yeah.
Dude, that was is that still one of the matches that sticks out for you as a turning point?
It was just a match along the way. I was excited about it because he's world silver medalist, and I knew I could compete with those guys, and he was the first guy that I beat that had done things on that level. So yeah, it's definitely a staple. It was probably the very beginning of me knowing that I could win. But I had made that decision because I wrestled with Sean Bunch every single day, and Stever was coming up a little bit after that. But I wrestled with Bunch every day, and we went to the same tournament. It was my first overseas tournament. I went 0-1, and Bunch won the whole entire tournament. And in that moment, I was like, these dudes aren't that good. And it changed my whole perception on international athletes because my dad coached at that level and always told me all these stories about Russians and Turks and Iranian dudes being superstars. And so I kind of put them on a pedestal up until that point because I knew I could wrestle with Bunch.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was a little bit behind him at that point, but still I knew I could do better than 0-1, and it changed my perception. And then the very next event, I wrestled well. I beat Zadok, and then I beat Bunch in the final. It was pretty controversial. Everybody thought Bunch was clearly better than me, and then we went to the trials, and I ended up beating him 2 out of 3, making a team. My first team was JB's first team, 2011, so I got to see all of that and be around guys who were superstars. Kale was on that team, James Green, a lot of superstars. So it's like it all started right then and there. So yeah, I guess it was a pretty big match for me.
Yeah, and I heard you say that watching JB win really motivated you too. How'd you mean by that?
Same kind of deal. Like I put him on a pedestal, and I don't think the country knew that we could win at that time. Right now, it seems like you make the team, you better medal. Like everybody seems like that's the standard right now, which is amazing. And I think that our twos and threes could be right in there to medal as well. USA is doing very, very well right now. I'm excited. I think we got a chance to win at this upcoming Worlds. Um, but JB made that happen. I really think that he came in and we were going in. I remember being at the NYC, we were going up the elevator and we were going to compete at the Beat the Streets event against the Russians. And he's a new college kid just coming out, just won the Open. Everybody thought it was a fluke. And we were talking about the Russians, like how good they were. And he was saying, I'm like, yeah, they're pretty good. And he goes, oh yeah, they're good, but I'm going to win. And the way he said it to me, it was like he knew. And I was like, okay, young dude, let's see what you got. And then he didn't lose for 70 matches. You know?
Jesus.
But in that moment of Beat the Streets was just kind of like an intimate moment for me. But then watching him do the exact same thing at the Worlds, beating Sargouche in the quarterfinals, who everybody kind of thought was unbeatable at that point, except for Jordan. And so it took that Jersey delusional confidence and skill and put it all together, and it showed the rest of the country that not only can we win, but that we should win. And he led us, man. He led us, and it was awesome to be right alongside. I mean, one of my heroes. You know, he's my friend and my peer, but I've looked up to him the whole time because of what he's done on the mat and who he is as a person.
It's amazing that when you see someone do that, like you hear a friend say something outlandish and inside you're hopeful for them, but you're like, maybe this guy doesn't know like the reality of the situation. Like there's no way. And then, 6 months later, something like that happens, or a year later, and you're like, holy shit. Like if they don't believe it, who would? And so like, it's crazy when it does happen like that.
Yeah, it is crazy. What was more outlandish was me not thinking that we could beat them.
Right.
He
Right.
was right. He was really right. And he proved it. And then he had me believing. Shit, I started shooting double legs. Like everybody in the country started shooting doubles.
Yeah, I mean that's what a turning point. That's our Goosh match was messy too. It was a war. There was singlets being pulled, bandages. I mean,
his ear blew up in the semis. I mean, just tough time and time again. And I was front row for all those in that 69 match streak he had. And I mean, he was losing in, I would say like 10 to 15 of them with 30 seconds left. And I just, in the beginning, I'd be like, oh, well, everybody started watching. Towards the end of it, I'm like, he's got it. Just watch. You watch. He's got it.
Dude, he's incredible. And he's still going.
Still going.
God.
He has to be injured.
Dude.
Got to be injured at this point. Because, I mean, he makes it look easy at times, but I've seen how many close ones there's been along the years, and how many times he's fought back and won 10-10. And I mean, that's what it takes to be the greatest American wrestler ever. And I think when he wins this Worlds right here, he will solidify himself as that number one with 7 golds with a couple years left.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. I mean, you think back to the Imar loss, people then were like, it's over, throwing in the towel, or, like, I don't know if anyone really felt that, but you started hearing that, and then he goes on another run. And
yeah, so it's kind of crazy because not very many people catch on to this, but as soon as they switched from night before weigh-ins to 2-hour weigh-ins was when things changed. Everything got a lot closer. He won a lot tighter matches. He looked a little juiced, and he looked human, and then he bumped up to 79 in the 2-hour weigh-in. 79, I think, is just a better weight for him. So that's why he's at the top of the game again, because the dude can wrestle.
Yeah, I mean, clearly. And a lot of people who haven't cut weight at your guys' level don't understand. Like I've heard you say when you were back at 60, you would have a cut and you just wouldn't know how your body was going to perform because there's just some inconsistencies.
Yeah.
Like how did that manifest for you? I mean, do you remember any specific examples where that happened? Or was it like a bad warm up or
all the time? It's not a bad warm up. That weight was too low for me, and to be in a spot like JB, it's got to be so perfect. You have to be the perfect weight. You got to get the right calls at the right times to be 6-7 time champ. things have to go pretty well, and you have to be the greatest and toughest and strongest, and everything has to go so well. But when you cut weight and you're just 60 kilos was just too low for me, but I knew that that was my best shot at making the team. You know, Metcalf was up at 66 is what it was back then, and there were some guys that I just didn't feel confident in competing with, and so I always just got down there. But it was so hard to be consistent, just because my body couldn't hold up. 2-3 matches in, I'd be just it'd be like a flip of a coin. You know, I trained my ass off. I did everything right because I didn't want there to be any thought in the back of my head. And so when I started to get too tired in matches that I shouldn't have, I knew it was from the weight cut. And then sometimes I still made the decision to go down and flip that coin. Then I started to go up and made the semifinals at 65, but it's hard to move up a weight class. 11 pounds is it's a pretty big jump. And I think it takes, you've seen with David Taylor.
Exactly.
It takes about a year, maybe 18 months until you might put the weight on. I might have weighed the same just because I was cutting so much. But it's like, it's not your weight yet. You know, it's like you have to get used to those bodies. The style is different. You're doing different kind of actions. I think like 57 and 60, 61 kilos are much more faster reattack kind of actions outside. And then you get into 65, 70, 74, where there's more hand fighting. And then you get into upper weights where it's a whole different thing that, you know, I don't have too much experience in, but they're all kind of different. So it takes some time to adapt from a technique aspect, but also you need to have that weight on your body for a little bit so you can handle that kind of pressure. Because I'm probably a little bit lighter than I was now, but I feel totally confident wrestling 65, 70 now. And I would have never thought about grabbing a 70 kilo.
Really? What'd you wrestle at the Cerro Pilado when you came back?
72. A lot of people don't know this, but I wrestled in Cuba.
Tell us that story when you were on the beach.
Man, I'm sitting on the beach. I have a pina colada in like a coconut. And I'm talking to KJ, Coach KJ. We're sitting there, we're just having a blast. We're on the beach. It's like it's a wrestling tournament, but it's vacation, you know. And I've been lifting a lot. I'm in good shape. I wrestle every day with Bryce and all the guys that were on the NJRTC at that point. And KJ's looking at me. He's like, "Man, you look pretty good." I said, "Hell yeah, I look pretty good. I'll beat all these dudes up." And he looked at me and he like tipped his cup up and he was like, "You know, we don't have to register." I go, "Sign me up." And he did. He did. And I mean, I weigh 70 at the most. And so, I mean, we kept drinking, of course, that day. Had one day off and then competed. I had Pantaleo first round, and he's cutting and he means business. You know, that was the first tournament he actually won as an athlete, but I mean, the dude's been ranked number one in the world at 70 kilos and been a force. And I was his Mike Zadek.
Dude, Pantaleo looks like a strong individual.
He can do one-arm muscle ups, not one-arm pull-ups. I've seen him do like 10 one-arm pull-ups in a row. Yeah, and he's that strong and to be that big, and he's cutting weight to get to the 2 kilos over. And so I lost to him first round, like 7-2 or something. It wasn't close. And then it was a pool system, so I beat everybody else in my pool, so I got second. And then we crossed over, and I wrestled the number one guy from the other pool, beat him. I'm in the finals with Pantaleo again, and I was no thanks.
Yeah, you don't want that.
I was like, dude, you got it, buddy. I'm good.
Yeah. It's cool though, because I saw you record a video afterwards. You're kind of recapping all of the things you learned. And one of the things you mentioned was like the nerves you felt. Like as soon as KJ said you're signed up, you had like a jolt of nerves.
My legs hurt. You know, it's a real thing. And I tell my guys that you have to have some sort of distraction. And so I felt the nerves from the beach worlds is when I really noticed that. I didn't have that much time with the Cuba tournament, and I didn't care that much. I just wanted to have fun and compete. And but I felt that I was thinking about the matches. I got nervous like 3 or 4 days out, and I could feel my heart rate going up, and I could actually feel my legs getting tired, and I wasn't cutting weight. And I realized how important that aspect of of coaching and of preparation that can take a toll on your body if you don't pay attention to it. So I distract my guys. I'm either with Nate or with Kaladzic, just kind of making jokes, trying to keep things loose up until probably the day of the event. The night before, I think is fine to be nervous, because you do want to be nervous. You want to be ready to go into war. But 3 days out, 2 days out, you will tax your body when you're already getting your weight off. You're already working really hard. You're trying to feel as fresh as possible. I think it's really important to keep track of your nerves and when you're making your preparation and final cuts.
It's crazy that you could be in the best shape of your life and something purely in your head can like actually drain real energy from you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so one of the first times I moved up to 65 kilos, I thought I wanted to move up 2014 and give myself a bunch of years. I ended up deciding I don't like losing. So I went back down 2015, said, screw it. But I had Metcalf. I beat a couple guys. I beat Molinaro in the quarters, thinking things are going well. This is great. I got Metcalf. I'm feeling a little bigger. I feel pretty good at this weight. And there was a break before the semis, and there was like some Twitter back and forth, and I started to like realize how big the match was. Oh, and it crushed me. It crushed me. I was trying to take a nap, and my heart's just beating out of my chest for like 4 or 5 hours. By the time the match actually happened, I was like, I had nothing. And I've wrestled Brent a ton of times in practice and real matches, and he always beat me, but it was 6-2, things like that. He beat me 10-0 in 2 minutes, and there was no contest. And I attribute it to letting the nerves get the best of me. Yeah, and he was very good too. So that doesn't
right. So when you're at your best, like whatever competition you think back to as where you just perform flawlessly, are you doing like little mental routines or mental checklists to stay loose, or any self-talk?
So I think when you're just in it all the time, it starts to be less of an issue. And I was cutting so much weight, and we did the night before. I didn't really have that much time to be nervous. I was always just so worried about making weight. And then my body was replenished, so I always slept well.
Mm-hmm.
So it was pretty easy for me. But yeah, I think that you got to be a pro. You got to be confident. You have to put a ton of work in. If you put a crazy amount of work in, the confidence overtakes the nerves, and you don't get nervous or scared that you're going to get tired. You're going to get taken to deep waters, and you're fine with it. But yeah, I think little cues. I think wrestling in singlets in practice is good. A good little practice. It gets the nerves up too, and people just treat it a little bit different if you have matches where other guys on the team are watching. I think that stuff helps. And then I'm putting myself through those mental drills, like get ready. I'm wrestling a guy from Iran that was a scrap last time, and how are you going to deal with it? I do that on the drive over to practice a lot, and get nervous and then deal with it. And it's part of it.
I love how you said in one of your videos that when you're running, like you've never gone for a jog in your life, because you'll start thinking of shit and you'll be like,
yeah,
fucking Jimmy Kennedy's behind me.
Yeah,
You got
Jimmy was always right behind me, and Coleman was always right ahead of me. And that has nothing to do with who was better, but that's just how it always was. I always picture Coleman right ahead of me. Jimmy was always trying to catch me, and we've all had some great matches. And Bunch was clearly way ahead of me just because he's so fast.
Dude, I was gonna ask you, how fast is that dude in like a stance and just explosion?
One of the fastest, most explosive guys that has ever wrestled. We would do sprints after practice. Him and JB were always first.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a good story. My first team, so we were doing hill sprints, and those dudes, JB, James, were way in the front, and I got no chance of catching them. And it's me and Kale right next to each other, and it's Cale Sanderson, and
Kale's doing hill sprints.
And I'm like fucking hitting him with my elbow. Like, get out of here, because we're so tired. I want to win. And I remember hitting him once, and he hit me back. And he looked at me, he kind of smiled, and I was like, "This is awesome."
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
People forget he made that comeback when he made that bet with his team.
Took 7 years off, and he knew that he needed 1 year to get ready so he could do another Olympic run. And then he did that year. He said, "Fuck it, I'm out."
Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah,
man,
he did not want to do it anymore.
What was this story with you in 2011 where you won the world trials but still had to go to a tournament to make the team?
Yeah. So every single rule in the rule book I've been a part of. Yeah, so I made the team in 11, and but if you had won an international event, and there wasn't as many back then, so they were all very difficult. I would equate them all to ranking series events, the ones
Hmm.
that would have qualified you for this, and Bunch had won one. So if you had to make the finals and lose, and had won one of those tournaments to get this wrestle off, and it wasn't a wrestle off, but we would go to the same tournament, and if he medaled and I didn't, he'd be on the team. So I
Got
ended
it.
up I ended up medaling, and we were on the same side of the bracket. So I would have had to wrestle him, but he lost, and so I was in right away. But I ended up beating that
Wow.
guy. So yeah, I mean, put a little extra pressure on me. Yeah,
Extra cut. I mean, for you, that was the battle, right?
I had to stay focused. I had to peak for another event, changes things a little bit. Um, Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of traveling, a lot of being away from home. Those things I didn't understand in the beginning.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's a lot of things that take a toll on these athletes, man. They got families, and there's a lot of stuff going on their own personal lives that they have to deal with. And for JD's had the same things, and kudos to Lauren and for making that easier on him, hopefully easier. But or kudos to him for just dealing with it, because having the little babies at home was hard for me.
Oh, I bet, man. I mean, and then like you said, you're sucked down. There's nothing worse than being sucked down. And we've mentioned it a few times, but for people who haven't watched the Flow documentary, which I love, by the way, how much were you sucking back in those days to get down to 60
I
kgs?
probably weighed 158 to 132, and 157, 158, and that was 157 training twice a day, but eating as much as I want. But I don't eat that much anyway. But I was lean at
Hmm.
57. I mean, it doesn't sound possible because it shouldn't be. I don't think I had one solid thing of food in the last 2 weeks. Every time I made it, it was always liquid diet, one
2 weeks.
one protein shake after each workout, and that was it.
That was it.
Yeah, I
Oh
mean,
my.
way too low.
When did you start cutting out the water?
Towards the end, but I started that cut always 6 to 8 weeks out. Yeah,
That's
it
a
was,
that's
was
a
never fun.
prison sentence, dude. That's
Yeah, no,
crazy.
yeah, definitely got. And I spent some. I would never recommend it to anybody unless you're trying to make a world or Olympic team. But still, I wouldn't even recommend it to those people too, because I spent so much time trying to get better at making weight. I
Hmm.
missed years of getting better at wrestling. And so I think up until maybe last year, maybe would have been the best I've ever been, just because I've been focused on learning wrestling and teaching wrestling and following the principles that I teach. And so I kept getting better for a long time, but now my body's starting to fall apart. So I think I'm back on that decline.
You can feel it?
I feel it everywhere.
Really? How so?
My neck, I think I need surgery on my neck. My hips falling apart. My knees feel loose. And I was pretty fortunate. I don't think I ever got injured. I never really took time off, really ever. Maybe a couple minor things, but no real surgeries, nothing too bad.
Wow, man. Then it's crazy because you look at you on your Instagram, and I know that's not always real life, but you're obviously super in shape. And to think that, what are you now, like 155 or
Something
more?
like
That
that. Yeah.
I mean, there's not an ounce of fat on you now. Like to think of that cut is
Yeah.
crazy. And
Yeah.
like you said, all the time spent worrying about that versus wrestling.
Yeah. Could have gotten a lot better. But yeah, I was kind of forced into that position at Ohio State. We had me and then Jaggers and Lance Palmer
Hmm.
back to back to back. So it would just make no sense for two of us to be at the same weight. So I was just kind of forced to do that for the team, and chose to do that as well. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's the way it panned out, and I don't really regret any of it. But if I could do it again, I think I would try and do it a little different, and not cut so much weight.
I mean, 3-time world team member, though, that's one of the rarest feats in wrestling, and 3-time US Open champ. But
Mhm.
it's just like, yeah, it was crazy to watch.
Two-time world champion. Don't get that
2-time
wrong.
veteran world champ. That's right,
Yeah,
baby.
yeah.
That's right. Another year, I noticed you may have had some weight cutting. I was looking back at your high school stuff because Indiana's, one division, and your freshman year and sophomore year, you went the same weight class. Is that accurate? And if so, was that a big challenge?
Yep. So I couldn't make the team at 103. We had the state champ on our team. I lost to him double overtime, and he smashed everybody. So I had to bump up, beat my best friend off the team, who was very good, another freshman, and I ended up losing to Angel Escobedo, but I weighed probably 104,
Wow.
making 112. And those guys were all bigger than me. I did the best I could, but it was tough for me. I wasn't good enough to be giving up that much weight, and I ended up losing to Angel, and then I was at the right weight the next year, 112. So it wasn't like I was cutting a crazy amount or anything.
Hmm.
I just was light the year before.
Dude, Indiana, like they had some studs coming out of there back then. I mean, they still do, but
Yeah,
especially back then.
kind of how it is. One division brings up superstars, but it's just not as deep. But
Hmm.
I wrestled Andrew Howe in the finals. I wrestled Angel Escobedo in the state tournament, and yeah, there's definitely some good dudes that came out of Indiana.
What year did you wrestle How in the finals?
My senior year, his freshman year. Mhm.
How insane was that one?
Yeah, his only loss in high school.
No shit.
Yeah,
What
so
happened in the match?
I headlocked him. Yeah, I was older and a little bit better than him.
Hmm.
But yeah, I beat him 7-1 or something like that. And so whenever I see him, though, I always ask him if he ever lost in high school.
That's crazy. I did not know that. Man, I'll have
Uh-huh.
to go back and see if I can find that one.
Yeah,
And you ended up in Indiana, obviously, because your dad was, one of the great coaches of that era, coached Canada, coached Team USA, 1988, John Smith's first Olympic title. That was a great team. And then he
yeah.
coached at Indiana. When did he retire from IU?
Before I don't know, maybe somehow I was really young. I was
Okay.
definitely young because I didn't really know that he wrestled when we were growing up. I mean, I knew there was wrestlers around all the time, and I just didn't really put it together when I decided that I wanted to wrestle. It was 100% my choice. I'm sure he did some Jedi mind trick brainwashing, but I really thought it was my choice. He showed up to practice, and I'm like, Dad, you're good at push-ups, but what are you doing here? And coaching, I like no idea. So oblivious to it. Or at
Oh
least
my
that's
God.
the way I remember it. Somehow he tricked me into that. So um, I try and do that with my son. He really wants to wrestle. He's around only wrestlers. All the people he looks up to are all wrestlers, and so we I try and step off as much as I can. But if he wants to go to practice, I'm the first one to take him there, and he's starting to enjoy it for himself. And because that was such a great gift my dad gave me,
Hmm.
wrestling is way too hard to be doing it for somebody else. And so I always pull him back more than push him too hard. But I don't know. We have very, very good coaches around here at Princeton that can take him under their wing. I'll take Dubuque's kid a little bit, and Ayers' kid, and Gray's kid, and they'll take Parker. And so we got a really good family around here to show them the ropes without having it to be dad all the time.
It's cool when the kids' sports heroes are wrestlers, though.
It is.
Jason Borelli, he came on here a while back, and he was saying how like before bedtime he reads his kids the names out of the NCAA program, like the qualifier list. And so they're like asking for 133 or 141, and I'm like, man, I can only imagine your kid probably the same way, man. He's going to school talking about Nate Jackson and all these cats.
Yeah. But he's talking about Nate as a friend, not the superstar wrestler that he is.
True.
It's just yeah, it's not that serious to him yet, and he likes it, but he's starting to get more into it. But now we're not reading the NCAA qualifiers.
Dude, speaking of Nate Jackson, Illinois native. You
Mhm.
talk about having a family. He's the family man. He has I can't remember 4 kids maybe. That he
Mhm.
had in college, and then now he's still going at it. Pushed Jaden to a match 3. What have
Yeah,
you learned from coaching him over the past couple of years?
he's the most coachable athlete probably in the country. He didn't know anything when I first got here, and I think that the way that everything happened made it so easy for us to grow together. He literally didn't never wrestled freestyle. He used to come here. I would turn him. I would turn
Mhm.
him every single day, and he had to get better, And now I can't even get my hands locked around that dude. He's way too big and too good. But I kind of told him from the very beginning. I said, if I'm right, I'm right, and if I'm wrong, I'm right, because I'm your coach. And he's believed that more than anybody. And we've been right and wrong together throughout this whole thing. But when you believe in somebody like that, you'll put in the time and take the lumps that happen along the way on the process to being great. And he's done it better than anybody. He's no stress, he's no drama, he's there all the time, he always works hard. Just a crazy perfect guy that a coach would want. And then even this last year, I don't know if you know this, but this is the craziest story ever. He won the Pan Ams and tested positive for steroids, came back, but so did for the field. You know, it was clearly contaminated tests, and we had our lawyers ready, and they said, yeah, it's fine, it's clearly contaminated, everybody's gonna get resolved. And so then this person got appealed in this one, and then it all happened, and Nate was the last one. We're like, the Open's coming up, what are we going to do? We need an answer. They said, here's your answer, you're banned for 4 years.
Stop it.
That's why Nate didn't wrestle at the Open. So
how did it go from being rescinded to banned for 4 years?
Because Nate's levels were a little bit higher. I mean, it's clearly contaminated beef from Guatemala. There was so much evidence that made it perfect, but yeah, he was banned for 4 years, and so we had to actually appeal it. And this is the very first case ever of boldenone, this steroid. There hadn't been one that had been overturned. So we're like, we might be screwed here. I'm like, Nate, did you take anything? And he's like, he promises up and down. So of course I believe him. And so we're fighting it. And I mean, sometimes it's looking no good. So the whole time he's training for Jaden, essentially, we don't know if he's going to be able to compete. Mm-hmm. We found out on Friday, last chance was Saturday, that he won the appeal the day before. I mean, the dude can't sleep. We're sweating. We thought for sure we were losing that year. Totally clean. Everything was just made right. It's just still that training process for him to wrestle the way he did it last chance, the way he did it at the World Team Trials, and then to beat Jaden in a match, with the up and down training of not even knowing that he was going to be able to compete is pretty insane. And tributes to him just trusting the process and just doing the best thing that he can and being ready. But the mental warfare there is, I don't even like thinking about it. It's crazy.
So eating a certain kind of contaminated meat can make you test positive for steroids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
You're eating steroids essentially if they don't treat it the same way that they do in America. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And
so
they
when
have a very long list of a history of testing athletes positive out in Guatemala. So it's like, it seems so cut and dry. And then they gave everybody the clear and not Nate.
So when were you thinking you would get the clear versus it actually happened the day before the trials? Like, so when was everybody else getting released?
Everybody was cleared before the Open. Everybody, we won every single weight there. And 6 of those guys had tested positive. I'm not going to name names because they weren't doing anything bad anyway, but no one needs to think about that.
Right. But I didn't even hear about this. Holy cow.
I know, it's so crazy. Yeah, they kept it under wraps pretty good because we all just thought it was going to be over. And then we were going to go public with it if it didn't happen because it was so wrong. But everything went good, and we were still a little upset about the whole process, but there was no need to just keep drawing attention to it. We were good.
Right. And like, you think about how far Nate came. What was the first tournament he won in Bulgaria?
Belarus.
Medved. Yeah, the Medved. And that was kind of where he kind of popped a little bit, and everyone's like, holy shit.
Yeah. We knew how. I'm going to let my dog out.
No problem.
Yeah, so we knew how good that Nate was, but his style is even better against foreign guys. And you've seen it with JB, but they don't see a double leg like those dudes, like JB and James and Nate. They have some sort of power, and the way they hit it is different than. And I mean, from fighting really hard to beat some of these American dudes to smashing these dudes that are ranked top 10, it brought a whole new type of confidence to him. And showed him that if he makes a team, he can win. And I still believe that. And we got some superstars in the way, but if he keeps growing at the rate that he is, I think he's going to be ready to win the Worlds and ready to make a run at Olympic title.
Absolutely, man. It's just another example of, and this is such a cliche thing to say, but how mental it is. I mean, just the belief in yourself that you can battle with the, quote unquote international guys. And when I was growing up, it was wrestle with the Chicago guys, because, it's every level there's something, and it's like, how much of that's just nonsense?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's crazy, man. It's you got to be super confident and know that you're going to win and fight hard through tough positions. Yeah, and if you lose that, and I've seen even him go up and down in that mental battle, and lose that battle and win it, and winning the overseas was a big jump for him. Then I had to kind of bring him back down to real life too. So we still got to get better, man. You're not the world champ yet.
Right.
And so, he's same thing. We've been on the same page the whole entire time. And that's why, I mean, when somebody's that good to be still making jumps that he's really looking himself to make jumps and what he needs to work on. But he's also really open and listening to my ideas, because neither of us really know. We're both trying really hard as a team.
Yeah. When you think about, your position as a leader of that team, NJRTC, it's been an incredible run, but it's not the first team that you were a part of that had a resurgence. When you got to Ohio State, they were at the lows of the low, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we scored a half a point at the Nationals my true freshman year.
So did you get recruited by Tom or by Russ?
Russ Hellickson. And so I was promised 70% my first year scholarship and then a full ride from there on out. And then I did that 70% year, and then Tom came in and he's like, I only know 70%. But Tom's the best. Tom is the best. And he pointed out that we want to make a team, and that was totally fine for us. And we did that. But the majority of those guys were Russ's recruits. It was me and Lance and Jaggers. And then Tom brought over Pasillo and a couple other guys. But when Tom came and brought Roselli, it was a total attitude change for us. And we had our guys, but they made us into what we were. And our drill partners, and we were all really good friends. And those workouts were top notch. And I stayed there for an extra 5 years afterwards. And then you add in Angel, and you add in Henry Cejudo for a little bit, and Stever was amazing partner for me, and we challenged each other for a long time. So it was a really good situation for all of us.
What was the change when Tom Ryan and company stepped onto campus first day?
I don't know. I think there was just some negativity towards the end of that Russ Hellickson staff. They were awesome. They were really awesome, but there was just some things that weren't clicking. And when you're losing, it brings out some different sides of people. But yeah, man, it was just such a bright new beginning for all of us. And they were excited. They were motivated. They knew they could win. It's Ohio State. They believed in the program, get those recruits from Ohio. And that's why, I mean, Tom's one of the best coaches in the country, and Roselli is still one of the best coaches in the country, but he was phenomenal for me. Tom did the CEO business, fundraising, recruiting. Lou was in charge of practice and technique, and they were fitting into their roles flawlessly. And so that's why they're still doing very well today.
Yeah. And if you look at the team jumps, I mean, a couple of years there, you guys were second maybe twice to Iowa, and the 1 year was really close. Yeah,
really close. And yeah, if I would have won, I think we would have won. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
I wasn't even thinking that, because you took a third that year. I didn't know you wrestled Dake.
Yeah, I wrestled Dake. If I would have won the year I was in the finals with the
okay, the year before. Yeah.
If I would have won then, and I was thinking that we would have lost either way, because Metcalf was after me, and DC Caldwell beat Metcalf, and so that made me.
Got it.
Damn it, we would have won.
Dude, that's crazy to think about. And man, like, I didn't realize that like Jay Jaggers and those guys were not part of that new era of recruiting. So Russ was still pulling in some big hammers near the end there.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow. And your dad was, how did he end up the coach at Ohio State that year?
Yeah, so he was a coach. I think Russ knew that if he got him, he'd probably get me. And they hired him while I was still making my decision. My dad didn't say, like, I'm going to go there. You should come. I kind of, obviously I wanted to. I had a lot of success with him being my coach. Yeah. And so I wanted to continue that. He was there for a year, and then the whole staff got wiped out. And so he wasn't there anymore, but he still helped me tremendously along the way.
Oh, I'm sure. And you mentioned Lou Roselli. That's one guy who's never been on the podcast, and I don't know a lot about him, but people just love that guy. What's kind of unique about his approach?
No bullshit. No bullshit. Get your 2-a-days in. We did the most live wrestling out of any club in the country. There's no doubt about it. We had 5 guys on our RTC. All 5 were on a world team out of 7 weights.
Dang.
So pretty good. So
Yeah.
it's like we were working our asses off, and we were, I think, definitely overtrained at some points, but same kind of thing. We believed it. We believed in it. We were following him with no questions asked all the time. We did 30 minutes alive every single day, 10 threes, 3 10s, 6 5s every single day. And against Stieber, Angel, Cejudo, Tomasello, DeJulius, back to back every single day. And so when we had the US Open line up or the World Team Trials line up, it was like, come on, I do this 5 days a week. And so we were really mentally ready for it. I think as a coach, I don't do that to my guys. My guys would die. They would fall apart. So I don't know if it was just a little bit different back then, but we were doing a little bit too much, and Roselli, that's what he asked of us, and he made it seem like, oh yeah, everybody's doing that. Nobody did that.
And you had said that your workout plan was 11 workouts a week, and so I was going to ask you how many of those were on your own versus part of the team back in those days.
Yeah, so we were on the mat 5 times a week, and I think Roselli ran some technique sessions in the mornings, but I never did those. If I was on the mat twice a day, I'd kind of fall apart. But I always ran and saunaed and lifted and saunaed and did 6 times at my little Lifetime Fitness or whatever it was back in the day in Ohio. I did that religiously, never missed ever. And 11
Really?
never miss. No, never miss. Always on meeting my goals that I wanted to hit on the weight, on the scale. Always working really hard. And I think that's another thing that contributes to the consistency and the mental game and dealing with the nerves. But yeah, I never missed.
Wow. I love that, just the plan of attack you have. You know exactly going into it. You got to get X number of workouts, and you're going to have 5 at practice, so that leaves 6 on you.
Yeah, and it's like when you're a senior level athlete, you just have to be a pro, and you got to hold yourself accountable. And I knew that if I won, I was getting paid $24,000 a year to be on the world team. And I knew if I won, I could get more sponsors and there'd be more food on the table. I had 2 young little babies that I wanted to take care of, and it made priorities very, very simple and easy for me. So it's like it was such an easy thing for me to do. And I never felt like I had a job until I was done wrestling. Once I was done, I realized that I only worked out twice a day, but my job was 24/7, nutrition, sleep, focus, doing all the right things all the time. And when I finally retired, it was like, oh, I could take a breath, and I could go have a beer, and I could eat fast food and do some things that just I never ever did.
Right. Just live for fun, like put on some weight,
Yeah, right. Yeah. Everything had such a focused purpose for me, and it's like I created that own schedule for myself. And Roselli was there to push me through the wrestling workouts, and he didn't care how tired I was, and he didn't ask me what I did in the mornings. He just put me through, and that's what we were doing.
Dang. And like you said, you had, Logan Stieber. How old was he when you were like on those, 2013, 2015 teams?
Yeah, so I'm thinking he was there 1 year after I graduated. And so, yeah, because I was definitely there for his whole college career. And I think when the ceiling is much higher in the room, you can raise the bar to that ceiling a lot quicker. And he would go overseas to tournaments and be like, Reece would beat this dude, Bunch would beat this guy, and he'd compete at that level, and that's what gave him that confidence. And same thing, he's wrestling Tony Ramos. He's like, dude, these guys would smash him, and he obviously had some scraps with him, but he knew that he was at that level because he competed with us. And he came in the room, and I mean, we beat him up, and it was most people you beat up, and it takes him a long time. He was nipping at our heels in a month. I mean, the dude, I'm like, oh shit, I better stop helping him. He's gonna beat me, man. And then we wrestled in the open semis. I beat him in the third period clinch. And then he beat me at the open a couple years later at 65. Like, we had some real scraps, and it was like that every single day in the room. He was the one guy that was probably consistently better than me that I've ever wrestled for a long period of time. I'm like, man, this guy's gonna win the worlds, and sure enough, he did.
Man, I saw like a crazy tweet that he maybe lost like 10 lifetime matches. I mean, I was like, what? That's crazy, you know?
Yeah, lifetime. That's
Insane. Well, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, two things before we let you go. One is, I love how you talk about your stance and motion routine back when you were in, your prime focus, that you would watch tape of your opponents, watch their first contact, whether it's like a right club or a wrist, and then drill based on that.
Yeah.
Like,
so
how'd you get that?
I ended up coming up with the 2x20 stance motion. If you've ever done stance motion for more than 5 minutes, 2x20. Yeah. And so that was when I was hurt. So I couldn't get on the mat. So I knew I had to do something very hard to come as close as I could to replicating wrestling all the time. And so in the beginning, it would beat up my lower back and it would be hard for me, but it taught me how to stay down in my stance. And to make it a little more realistic for the matches, I would visualize Jimmy Kennedy, and I watched what his first contact was. His right collar is what he wants. I'd hide it with my neck. I'd be inside, and I'd be literally in here. I'd be thinking about exactly how the match would go. I'd give up takedowns and see how I could handle that. I'd be in that yoga room at the whatever public gym it is, doing parterre bottom with nobody on top.
That is classic. Parterre bottom is like, that's when you walk in on, you're like, what the heck's going on in here?
This guy doing.
I love how it's not just 2 20-minute goes is incredible on its own, but you put the mental aspect to it. And I'm sure a lot of top guys are studying tape like that, but I was like, that's pretty cool that you would like focus just on like their first contact throughout the match and work from there.
All the attacks that they did, and I had them in my head, and I had wrestled that match so many times, and it's like you get fired up too when he gets on my legs in my head, and then I really want to beat him up, and I'll find myself sprinting to a level that I probably wouldn't go that hard if I hadn't been visualizing that. Same thing as when I was running. If I didn't feel him breathing down my neck, then I wouldn't push that hard, just because it's pretty difficult to consistently motivate yourself all the time. But that was one little trick that helped me.
Wow. Awesome stuff, man. Last thing I got to ask you about is you and CJ Brookie just announced a new album. Tell us about this, man.
Yeah. So me and CJ, we're best friends, we fight. And if you got to watch the match, we posted it. You have to click on, not the reels, but we have it up. It's the highlights from the match. It's pretty hilarious.
I watched it. It's so funny, dude.
It's so funny. I can't.
He should be a pro wrestler.
He's
hilarious.
Hilarious, dude. So we have the album out. I'm super proud of how it turned out, but it's just the beginning for us, man. We really enjoy making music. So if you want to check it out, it's at Spotify, it's on Apple Music, it's on YouTube for the people that don't have those. Highlight Humphrey and Young Bruck.
Dude, I love it.
We have some really funny stuff on there. I think it's pretty high quality as well. CJ's a perfectionist, and he won't let us get out of the studio without it being the way that we want it to. So we're learning, we're getting better every time we go in. It's almost like wrestling. We're competing in there, and we're yelling at each other. We're partying, man. We feel like rock stars. But yeah, we really enjoy it, and we think it's really fun to listen to. And yeah, man. So we did that, and we're also doing adult wrestling, which I think is getting ready to change the game.
I love that you're doing that, man. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So we think that we can grow the sport the fastest at the age group after high school and even after college. And so we do adult wrestling classes. They're like 18 and up, I would say. And BJJ, Jiu-Jitsu, they crush this market. They make millions and millions of dollars, and we do nothing. There's like a random class here and there. But so right now we were doing one location for a while and getting pretty good numbers, but it would trickle off, and people would they'd get hurt. So we're like working out all the kinks. But right now, this weekend, we're starting Jersey and PA like summer tour. So we're going around to all these different locations, and doing basically a 1-session camp, and the best locations that get the most people that are driven and motivated that want to do it consistently. I'm going to use my NJRTC guys, and they're going to run those classes, make some money. If we can make it work in Jersey, we have the blessing of USA Wrestling to go nationwide with it. Then I'll hit up Bryce Meredith and Zach Ray and Downey. Even anybody that wants to run these classes can do that, because everywhere I go, their brother wrestled or this and that. With MMA kicking off, knowing that wrestling is the #1 skill or base to continue to fight, a lot of people want to learn how to wrestle. And I think if you teach the parents and you teach the coaches, and I have a whole curriculum that they have to follow and learn good technique, you can help the youth. And that trickles into our high school, into our RTCs and college level athletes. We can really change the game and make everybody a lot better. And so we've been working on it behind the scenes really hard, CJ and I.
I love it.
And I really think that we're very, very close to figuring out the formula, and we are putting in a lot of work in our spare time. And so we're hoping that we can bring wrestling to everybody. And what USA Wrestling, I talked to Rich Bender, the president, and he said it can't be for competition. And I totally agree. I think the veteran worlds are great and the masters nationals are great, but we are fitness, we're self-defense, we're dance, we're fun, we're doing cartwheels and forward rolls. We got these middle-aged women that do jujitsu doing handstand walks, and it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
And we cuss and we play bad music, and it's adult wrestling. And so that's popping off. And we're trying to get it going. So any way you can help spreading the word with that is going to be amazing.
100%.
I'm getting asked to, since that video went viral, I'm getting asked to do a ton of camps. And I said the one stipulation I have is that 1 session you have to bring a parent. You have to bring your mom or your dad, and they get a little perspective, because I'm just tired of hearing dads on the side saying, "Get up, just get up." I'm like,
Right.
you get up. You get up. And I've seen it happen with people in these classes. Their perspective changes, and the way that they treat their kids is totally different, just because it is a really technical thing. It's not always just effort, and sometimes the kid is trying really hard, and you got to be a little easier on them. And I think it'll be better for the athlete parent relationship. And I think they'll actually have some technical input, like, you should be keeping your head up here. And if the kid knows that, then and they're taking an interest in it and actually putting themselves out there, I think the relationships will be better, and I think we'll just be better as a whole. And so I'm pretty excited about it. We're working really hard on it. I'm hoping it blows up.
I love it, dude. I think, I know you're plugged into the MMA world a little bit out in Jersey. Dude, the BJJ thing, like you said, is a perfect example. I mean, and the reality is that all schools have wrestling attached to them, and they're still killing us in that category. Like, I don't understand it,
Yeah, they're killing it. Yeah. And I think that we do it at jiu-jitsu gyms. They already have their insurance and liability forms, so we don't even really have to worry about that. And we bring our wrestlers, they bring their jiu-jitsu players. And the only thing is, wrestling is just a little too aggressive.
Yeah.
So we have to know that we're not, because these dudes, they tie their shoes for the first time in 10 years, they think they're in high school.
Hard club.
Hard club, and they all want to scrap as hard as they can, and they ruin it for themselves. And so we're figuring out how we're all on the same team, and as team Don't Get Hurt. We're team Tylenol, we're team Motrin, team Advil.
Well, that's the great thing about jiu-jitsu. It's the gentle art. It's all based on not being like a type A alpha. You can be a chess dude and win.
So we have to figure out how to adopt that, but still have it be wrestling, and still let them fight each other a little bit, because that's what they all want to do. So we're working out the kinks, man, but I think it's just such a great idea, and we're trying to figure it out. We're putting in the work.
We will spread the word as much as we can. That is, I did see how you change it up and have locations all throughout like you said, Jersey and PA. So it goes all the way to like September, August right now.
Yeah, right now, but I got a bunch more. Getting excited. We're doing it super cheap right now. It's like
awesome.
I want the idea to grow, and I do a lot of camps for high school kids, but it's got to be a pretty big camp. For these, I'm doing them, and so you can get me and CJ at the same time for very cheap, and we're partying in there. It's so fun. Everybody loves
it. Dude, I'm in Chicago, and there, not only people who grew up in Illinois wrestling here, but it's a huge job market. So many college wrestlers are in Chicago. I mean, and you got some Illinois boys out there, so get the adult classes going.
Come on, let's go. Yeah.
Last thing I gotta say, man, is that going back to your album, I just love one that you put yourself out there. You know, as someone who creates stuff, I know how nerve-wracking it can be. So first of all, just badass. But then two, on the song, is it "Teach Me How to Wrestle"?
Yeah.
The comment about the weird kid who does the spladles, dude.
Yeah.
Every time I hear that, it's just fantastic. I just
Yeah,
wanted to
I like
commend
that.
you on that,
I
man.
like that weird dude. You know, it's not like you're weird. It's more like you're the different guy. You know,
A
you're
different
trying
guy,
to
yeah.
funky stuff. You know, and so some people have kind of hated on that comment, but I'm joking. You know,
Dude, I love it. We all know that. I think of one guy in particular, real lengthy guy,
yeah,
not that good, but every once in a while he'd pull a spladle,
Out the Spladle,
and
man.
God, you'd love it.
Yeah, man. So if you haven't checked out the music, please do, man. It'll definitely bring a smile to your face, and that's what we're trying to do. But always, always, if you want to do something, do it, and don't worry about the haters, man. I find that my favorite part of life is when I'm chasing something. And the Olympic dream was such a good thing to chase, but that's over. And I always want to continue to have that feeling. So I'm chasing music. I'm chasing a big thing like adult wrestling, something that can really change the world and change the country. And when releasing it is the hardest part, you know, releasing the music, because making it was so fun. And now I'm like, shit, we have 8 songs. We didn't know what we were gonna do, and so just dropped them all at the same time. Put some funny stuff in there, but yeah, they're really fun. Some of the songs are really fun. Whiskey Out the Wine Glass makes me smile every time. If you
I'll
haven't
check
heard
that
it,
one.
yeah,
And like you said, you guys are in like a real studio making this. I mean, this is serious stuff.
very, very high level production. And we're obviously just learning, but I think it's pretty good music. I really do. Yeah, so you let the album run. It's 25 minutes at the most. You can listen to the whole thing, and then play it back and share it with your friends, man. Because yeah, we had a lot of fun making it. And I think you can hear it through the tracks.
Well, I saw a couple of dads tweeting that their kids were requesting the "Teach Me How to Wrestle" song, and so I saw that and I went to check it out. I'm like, dude, that's super creative. So I liked it. And you're like going through a match, so
Yeah.
it's cool, man. You know, this podcast is called Wrestling Changed My Life Podcast. I'm curious to hear your answer because you've seen some extreme highs, some lows. Now you're coaching. You're a parent of a wrestler. What's the biggest impact for you?
It's so crazy with wrestling and coaching. The highs and lows that I feel on a weekly basis. I mean, I'll think I have it all figured out, and 2 days later, be the worst coach, worst athlete. And so, those are real feelings. I actually believe those things in those moments. And so, wrestling has changed my life. It's taught me how to stay even keeled through the highs and through the lows. Don't get too high on yourself when everything's going well, and don't get too low on yourself when things don't seem like they're going out well. And nothing matters till they raise the other dude's hand. And so deal with a bad call, deal with a tweak of the knee, deal with being exhausted, focus on the next best thing to do in that moment. And I apply that to so many things in life. And then always chase the dreams, shoot for the stars and reach the moon, right?
Love
And
it.
just continue to push yourself always, always very hard. And people will respond around you.
Awesome, man. Reece Humphrey, thank you much for your time, my brother. Have a great day.
Thanks, man.
Take
Appreciate it.
care.